Hi guys, today's project is going to be a really cool pair of earrings using the Conetastic tool. If you've never seen the Conetastic tool, then you are in for a treat. Those of you who do have one, or if you're going to go out and purchase one to use in your own studio, then it's going to be green. Which I know mine's not green. I lost the green sleeve that went on the outside of this a long time ago. So mine does not exactly look like what you're going to get when you go to the store. It's this really cool deep green color. Mine, however, is not. So keep that in mind if you're going to shop for one. Now, for those of you who have never used the Conetastic before, let me show you how cool this is. So it's basically a handle that comes with 3 cone-shaped mandrels, and what's really cool is that they all fit on the inside of the tool, so you don't have to worry about losing them. Okay, I'll show you. The end screws off, and then you've got 3 mandrels on the inside. You've got a large, medium, and a small. Very cool. I love that you can store them inside the tool so that you don't have to keep up with them or worry about losing them. For today's project though, we're going to use this small mandrel, and so I'm going to put the other 2 back in here for safekeeping, just screwing the lid back on there. This also comes with an Allen key. You'll see right there is how you tighten up your mandrel. It goes right in the top of the tool. Okay, slides down. There's a flat surface on your mandrel. That flat surface needs to be facing you, facing this little opening here where we're going to use the Allen key to tighten down. So you're going to put that in, and actually mine needs to be loosened up just a little bit. So you're going to slide your mandrel into the top of the tool, and then you're going to screw it back on and tighten it up, and then it's not going to come off. Oh gosh, sorry. Put it on there, screw it all in, and then you tighten it up and it's not going to come off of there. And what's cool is that your Allen key also fits with all 3 mandrels inside the tool, so you don't have to worry about losing this guy either. I'm terrible at losing Allen keys, so I love that I always have one inside my Conetastic when I need one. All right, so now that we've got the mandrel attached, we're going to make a cone. Now, let me show you the earring that we're going to make so you guys kind of have an idea of where we're going. Okay, the Conetastic makes this cone right here, and of course this is the smaller of the 3, but you can make, you can make this exact same earring with the larger 2 cones as well. I just find that for starting out, using the smaller cone is really easier to work with, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to make this cool cone, and then we're going to have all these cute little dangles coming out from the inside of the cone, which makes kind of a tribal looking, just a funky fun pair of earrings. Okay, so that's where we're going. I'm going to use a piece of 22 gauge gold color wire. You can use artistic wire or you can use German style wire for this, but it should be 22 gauge. You can use any gauge with the Conetastic, but just for this earring's sake, we're going to use 22 gauge. This is about a 26-inch piece, and actually mine's probably a little bit longer, but that's all you need, is about 26 inches to make a cone. Insert your wire into the little hole that's here on the mandrel. You want about 2 inches to come out the back. Okay, then you're going to just push that down with your finger up against the tool just to kind of hold it, keep that little tail out of the way, and then you're just going to twist the tool, guiding that wire. You can see I'm guiding the wire with my first finger and my thumb, just making those wraps as tight and as close together as I can, and I'm just going to keep twisting until I get to the very top of the tool. Okay, now you can see I have twisted all the way around. I've made it all the way to the top of the mandrel here. Got a little bit of tail hanging off, and I've got this tail down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in with our cutter tool, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut this tail off at the top, okay, just to kind of get rid of that guy. And now to release the cone from the tool, you're going to come down here, and that very first wrap, or where your wire is either exiting or entering that hole, you want to snip that with your cutter tool. It may take a little finessing to get right in there, but usually you can wiggle one of those wraps down on the bottom and separate it from the pack, if you will, and you can snip that, and it should, there we go. Now you should be able to get the cone off of the tool. Just use a little twisting and there we go. Okay, so you can see we've got our nice little cone and we still have this little piece stuck on the tool. Just take that and cut it off or pull it out, whatever works for you. And now we're done with the tool for now. Now, obviously, if you're making two earrings to have a pair, you're going to want to do that again to make a second cone, but we're only making one for the video, so I'm going to go ahead and sit this to the side. Now, you see my cone here is not perfect. There are some spaces between some of my wraps. That's totally fine. Makes no difference to me. I kind of like it that way. You really can get kind of creative with your Conetastic and your cones. You can do really crazy funky wraps around the tool and just make some really wild designs, or you can do all nice and tight and uniform, or you can wrap so that you have really large spaces in between. Okay, now the whole cone we actually don't need. We're going to trim some of this off. This cone is, let's see, should be about 1 inch long. Yeah, so that makes a 1 inch cone. We're going to cut some of this off. We only want our cone to be about 3/4 of 1 inch long. Okay, and so to do that, really easy, there's nothing to it. You're just going to take your fingernail, or you can take a pair of your flat nose pliers. Those work really well too. In fact, a lot of times, especially if I have my nails painted, I don't like to jam my fingernail down in there, so you can use your flat nose pliers if you want to. But I'm going to figure out where that 3/4 of 1 inch is, and then I'm going to take my thumb or my pliers and just kind of wiggle in between some of those wraps. I'll hold this up so you can see what I mean. Okay, now I've got my thumbnail in between there, you can see. So now I'm going to very gently pull that apart. Okay, so now you can see you've got a space here. I'm going to come in with my cutter tool. I'm not worried about making a perfect cut yet. We're going to clean it up in just a second. I'm going to trim that off. I don't need this guy, but he does make good jump rings, so I'm going to save him. I don't like to throw those away. Okay, so now we have the top portion, but you can see my cut here he's a little gnarly. He's sticking out. He's going to hurt me, so I'm going to trim that off and just make it nice and flush. And now we have a perfect cone ready to go. Now, this is an optional step. You don't have to do this, but I do like to do it just because sometimes no matter how well you trim that end, it can be a little rough. So I like to take my chain nose pliers and grab that very tiny bit of end and just barely tuck it in. Now, I know that was kind of hard to see. It was just a really tiny movement, but I just very carefully tucked that tiny end of wire right into the inside. You don't want to tuck too much, just a little, you know, just a little bit and stick it on the inside of the cone. And see, you can see where it is now, okay, up inside there. So it's not gonna hurt anybody. It's not gonna scrape up against your skin while you're wearing these earrings. All right, so there's our cone. We're ready to move on to the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna create a couple of little dangles before we put everything together. So I'm gonna take my cone, I'm gonna sit him to the side, and I'm gonna get a couple of head pins out just to create some cool little dangles for our earring. Now let's see, I'm only going to do one of these on camera, and then I'm going to do the rest of them off camera because you don't need to see me do a whole bunch of these. But just to get started, for those of you who are new, I'm going to take one of my head pins. Would help if you could see it. There you go. And I'm going to thread on a little seed bead. You can do whatever you want to as far as the dangles are concerned. I'm just using what I have. The beads that I'm using actually came from Jesse James Beads in one of their little mini mixes, and I will put that in the description box if you're interested in getting these exact beads. So anyway, just a little blue seed bead, and then I'm going to thread on this coin-shaped bead just like so. And now I'm going to come in with my chain nose pliers. I'm going to create a wrapped loop because I don't want this to come undone. So grabbing that wire right over the top of the bead, bending over the pliers 90 degrees. I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers just like so, grabbing that wire between the barrel of the pliers. I'm going to go up and over that top barrel of the pliers. Okay, now I'm just going to readjust, finish making that loop around just like so. Okay, now I'm going to switch hands and I'm going to come in with another pair of pliers to make my wraps. I like to use pliers instead of my fingers just because I feel like I have more control that way, but it's totally up to you. Okay, I'm going to make about 4 wraps. And then I'm going to come in with my cutter tool and trim off my tail. I'm going to sit this guy to the side and I'm going to make 2 more little beaded dangles, and then we will come back and start to put everything together. Okay, so I messed up. I told you guys I was making 3 dangles. That's actually not so. I only made 1 extra dangle because I forgot that the other little dangle is actually a charm. So I don't need to make a wrap or anything with it. I'm just going to add a jump ring and add it to some chain. So speaking of which, we've got 3 very small sections of chain here, and I'm using this antique brass color because I think it looks really cool with the gold color wire that I used for my cone. I've got this in 3 sizes. I have a 1-inch section, a 3/4 inch section, and a 1/2 inch section. So I've got 3 staggered lengths of chain here, just really teeny tiny. It's just small cable chain. There's nothing fancy here, but you certainly could use some really pretty different chain if you wanted to. Now I'm gonna go ahead and attach my dangles to my chain, and to do that I'm going to use some 4mm jump rings. These guys are teeny tiny. You can use 6mm if you want to. I know some people do not like to have to open and close such a tiny little jump ring, so it's totally up to you. I'm going to use 2 pairs of pliers to do this. I'm going to open up one of these and thread on my dangle. Okay, and before I close that jump ring, I'm also going to thread on one of my pieces of chain. Okay. And then I'm going to close the jump ring back. So this one's ready to go. I'm going to add a jump ring to this guy and add him to some chain and do this one as well. Okay, now once you have your chain attached to your little pieces, or I'm sorry, gosh, I'm getting backwards here. Once you have your dangles attached, there we go, to your pieces of chain, you're ready to move on to the next step. Now this is where we're just going to kind of put everything together. So you're going to need another piece of 22 gauge wire. You're only going to need about 2 inches of this, okay? And 2 inches might even be a little much. You could probably get away with 1.5 inches, okay? But I use 2 inches just to be on the safe side. Better safe than sorry. Now all we're going to do is we're not even going to bend this or anything. We're really not making an eye pin, okay? We're just going to make a loop at the end. And so I'm going to use my round nose pliers to do that. I'm coming back a little bit, not really the middle. Well, yeah, I guess it's pretty close to the middle, okay, of the chain nose pliers, or I'm sorry, the round nose pliers. Grabbing that wire and I'm just rolling back. So all we're doing is creating we're creating a little P shape out of our wire, okay? Now, if it bugs you that this is not an actual eye pin shape, you can go ahead and break the neck on this if you want to. And what I mean is just take your chain nose pliers and bend that wire so that your loop is actually centered at the top of your wire. But this is actually going to go on the inside of the cone, so I don't really care that much about how it looks, just as long as it's big enough to hold all of my chain and will go inside my cone. So created the little P. Now I'm going to come in with my chain nose pliers. I'm going to open that up just a little bit, okay? I'm just kind of barely opening that P up, and then I'm going to thread on all 3 of my pieces of chain. Now you can do this in whatever order you want to, but remember you've got 3 pieces, so it's going to look a little bit different depending on what pattern you use to thread these on. I don't want them to be staggered, so I'm doing the longest first, then the shortest, and then the second longest. I just kind of like the way that that hangs a little bit better. All right, so I've got all 3 pieces. I'm going to come in and close that little P back up. Okay, now I'm going to take the rest of my wire and I'm going to put it inside of the cone. So now that little P holding everything is up on the inside of that cone. You don't see it at all, but you've got enough wire here at the end to make a wrapped loop, and that's exactly what we're going to do. And that's going to hold everything in place. I'm going to add one of these little seed beads just to kind of bring that color up to the top of the earring a little bit. And then all I'm going to do is come in and make a wrapped loop, making sure that everything is pulled tight. You don't want this to be falling out or anything like that. You want to be sure that you pull this all the way up to the inside and that nothing is moving, okay? You don't want anything to slip out afterwards. All right, so got everything on the inside of the earring. Now I'm just going to bend my wire, come in with my round nose pliers, and make my wrapped loop. Now you'll notice I'm going pretty fast with this because you guys have already seen me do this once. So just going to speed through this part and get about 3 good wraps there. Okay, and now I'm going to take that off the pliers, trim the little tail, just like so, and basically our earring is done. The only thing that is left to do is add our ear wire, and we are finished. And very quickly, you have a really unique, super fun pair of earrings that I guarantee nobody else is going to have. Super cool. Really cute pair of earrings. Ta-da! Now, your Conetastic, I used this as, you know, just a cover for the ugliness of that chain and everything. Let's see if I get that centered. There we go. So again, he's hiding all of the ugliness in there. He's hiding that little P and where it's attached to the chain and all that. That's great. But the cones can also be used for all kinds of other things. This is just one example. You can certainly use your cones for the ends of kumihimo, for covering up the ends of multi-strand necklaces and bracelets. There's all kinds of ways that you can incorporate these really cool cones into your designs. So if you don't have a Conetastic, I seriously recommend. Now, I know I sound like a commercial for it. This is not a sponsored video by any means, but I love my Conetastic. I use it for all kinds of things, so I highly, highly recommend it. If you do not own one, you certainly should check it out. I've got a link in the description box for you to purchase a Conetastic if you would like to have one, because I reach for it all the time. I absolutely love it. I can't say enough good things about it. So again, I know I sound like a commercial, but so that's it for today's project. I hope you guys like these earrings. I think they're funky and fun and cool, and you can certainly do this a million different ways. I'm just giving you one example. I hope you take this and run with it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.